Every traumatic stress is handled by the exact area of the brain and body that can best handle it. By understanding this important rule, we can instantly know why we're manifesting any one of the respiratory symptoms. And when we know why we're manifesting a symptom, we have a very good chance of resolving that symptom right at its source.
Nature makes no mistakes. God does not play dice. Instead, all of creation springs forth according to a few simple, elegant rules. All of creation, including your body. Know these rules and your body comes under your control. Welcome to Mind Over Symptom, where the pattern is revealed.
The World Health Organization lists chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, that is COPD, as the number 3 killer worldwide. Lower respiratory infections are the number 4 killer, and cancer of the trachea, bronchus, and lung are listed as number 5. The World Health Organization divides up respiratory illness into these 3 categories and leaves actually a few more respiratory symptoms in the category of other. But if you just lump these 3 together, these 3 that are listed as 3rd, 4th, and 5th leading causes of death worldwide, then you actually get respiratory illness as the number 1 killer in the world. Ischemic heart disease is listed at number 1 with 7.4 million deaths per year. Stroke is listed at number 2 with 6.7 million deaths per year, but the major respiratory illnesses combined make up 7.8 million deaths per year, according to the World Health Organization. So it's really number 1. Now, everyone's had some kind of respiratory illness. We're all familiar with the various listed symptoms, but what's not clear at all is why some people have asthma while some people rarely even get a chest cold. Why do some people who've been healthy all their lives develop lung cancer later on? Why is tuberculosis so much more common in some parts of the world than others? And why are some respiratory illnesses, including asthma, getting worse than ever before? In this episode, Mind Over Respiratory Illness, I don't aim to give an exact solution for everyone because each person and situation is different. But I do want to give you a framework for understanding respiratory illness as the very predictable, structured, and logical process that it really is. Respiratory illness follows the laws of nature, strictly. All you have to do is know how and why nature creates these symptoms, and a whole new strategy will open up for you. So, the dominant health paradigm doesn't divide respiratory illness along clear anatomical or symptomatic lines, but I'm going to right now. The respiratory system has 3 functions. First, the core task of absorbing oxygen from the air into the blood and releasing carbon dioxide from the blood into the air. This is handled by the lung tissue, which is a type of specialized digestive tissue. Second, the task of getting air into and out of the lungs. This is handled by the complex bronchial and laryngeal apparatus and the diaphragm. This equipment is lined with sensitive tissue that controls the speed of the in-breath and the out-breath. The airways are supported in their task by complex musculature. Third and finally, there's the task of getting the oxygenated blood out to the body and getting deoxygenated blood from the body to the lungs. This process is handled by the vena cava and the aorta, which are the blood vessels that connect the lungs to the heart at the 2 upper chambers, the atria of the heart. Now, today I'm not going to show you how to solve respiratory problems. I'm not promising an easy ride or a quick fix or a magical elixir that'll make these illnesses vanish, because contrary to all conventional and most alternative health models, these illnesses are not the result of germs or allergens or carcinogens or any other outside forces which operate upon the respiratory tract to make you sick. So there's no way to fight or block illnesses by reacting to these external agents. I'm just going to show you an overview of how your respiratory system really works so you'll be able to see why symptoms develop. And this is where the solution will begin to become apparent. Every symptom in the respiratory tract begins as a response to a biological conflict, that is, a traumatic stress experience which threatens your survival in some way. When you experience these biological conflicts, your body will manifest one kind of symptom depending on the type of traumatic stress you experience. And then when you resolve that biological conflict or traumatic stress, your body will manifest another healing phase symptom. Healthy respiratory function is achievable by understanding why your body does what it does when it does. When you understand why your body does what it does when it does, then you have options, regardless of diagnosis. In this episode, I've lumped all the main respiratory symptoms together into one disease category, that is respiratory illness, as if it's one thing. The reason I lump all respiratory illnesses together when analyzing these statistics is because the World Health Organization does. Probably not intentionally, but that's the actual somewhat confusing result. The World Health Organization lists COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, as the third leading cause of death worldwide, but COPD symptoms affect the upper respiratory tract and the lungs, lumping together two completely different types of symptoms with two completely different types of causes. The World Health Organization lists lower respiratory infections as the number 4 cause of death worldwide. But acute lower respiratory infections are not uniformly defined, and so by making this a single classification, the World Health Organization ends up lumping together acute bronchitis and bronchiolitis, influenza, and pneumonia, all of which are symptoms actually of the upper respiratory tract. They aren't lower respiratory infections at all. Then the World Health Organization lists trachea, bronchial, and lung cancers together as the 5th leading cause of death worldwide. However, trachea, bronchial, and lung cancers are symptoms of both the upper and the lower respiratory tract and happen for drastically different reasons. But once again, the World Health Organization has lumped completely different types of symptoms together. There are several other symptoms that affect the respiratory system that aren't counted in one of these 3 categories, but they do contribute in a major way to World Health statistics about respiratory mortality and morbidity. These include asthma, emphysema, cystic fibrosis, tuberculosis, pulmonary edema, and stenosis of the blood vessels leading from lungs to heart. And on top of all this, there are several symptoms that are considered lung diseases or respiratory diseases, but they aren't actually part of the airways, the lungs, or the blood vessels that carry blood to and from the lungs. So they aren't technically respiratory disease. Examples of these kinds of symptoms that are incorrectly lumped in with respiratory illness include pleurisy, pleural effusion, and mesothelioma. These 3 affect the protective tissue around the chest cavity. Another is heart failure, which is actually just related to the heart muscle, or lung embolism, which affects the coronary veins, not the heart or the lungs, or motor control diseases such as MS or ALS. These affect all the muscles of the body, not specifically respiratory. And these symptoms that I've just mentioned that aren't part of respiratory illness, they do affect breathing, but they're not caused by problems with the respiratory tract. They're not caused by problems with the lungs, airways, or the blood vessels that lead from the lungs to the heart. Lumping these other symptoms in with respiratory illness, as most conventional sources do, it's kind of like listing choking or poison gas inhalation as a type of respiratory illness. Not technically accurate. So according to most conventional sources, smoking, infections, and genetics are responsible for most lung diseases. This, as you'll hopefully soon agree, is incorrect. Contributing maybe, responsible for no. Okay, now on to a clearer explanation of respiratory illness and what you can do about it. So, the last step between being alive and not being alive is really it's just the breath. We can last without food and even water for some time, but without fresh oxygen, we're toast in mere minutes. Having a healthy respiratory system is clearly a top health goal. But the prevailing literature and understanding just doesn't know about the intricacies of the mind-body connection, or how literally our bodies respond to our needs. The end result of this confusion is that respiratory illness is grossly misunderstood as simply a problem of the old tube getting clogged up. But this paradigm doesn't see the body as a responsive system with complex sensory and feedback abilities, which is what it really is. Just as our digestive tract isn't a bag that we throw calories, vitamins, and minerals into and let the individual cells of our body sort out what they do and don't need, our respiratory tract isn't just a big balloon that we suck air into and let the blood cells sort out what they do and don't need. Our respiratory system is an exquisitely complex instrument that constantly adjusts according to the needs of all 4 departments of our body. Now, I talked about these 4 departments in a lot more detail in episode 3 of the Mind Over Symptom podcast, The Mind-Body Code Revealed. But here they are again in quick summary. The first department of your body is what I call the resources department. It's responsible for getting raw materials into and out of your body. In your respiratory system, the resources department has the lung alveoli cells and also what are called goblet cells. They're located higher up in the airways, but they belong to the resources department. The lung alveoli actually transfer oxygen and carbon dioxide between the air and the bloodstream, while the goblet cells create mucus, which acts as a sort of lubricant to help air pass through the airways more efficiently. All tissues of the resources department are digestive tissues. In the respiratory system, they're specialized digestive tissues that evolved from gills. These tissues are controlled by the pons of the brain stem. The second department of your body is what I call the security department. It's made up of a stretchy skin material called the corium skin, also called dermis or pleura or pericardium and so on, depending where exactly it's located. Before you were born, you even had a sac of this tissue that surrounded your entire body. The security department is responsible for protecting each area of your body from attack or injury. This corium skin tissue is controlled from the cerebellum. The corium skin that lines the upper part of the respiratory tract is only there to respond if you get a cut or injury in your throat, in your trachea. The protective corium skin that surrounds your lungs, surrounds the whole cavity. It's called the pleura. The third department of your body is what I call the production department. This is all the musculoskeletal tissue of your body, which includes muscle, bone, lymph, blood, and the blood vessels. So the production department is the doing part of your body. Its job is brute effort, brute output, straight up work of moving, pumping, pushing, and pulling, and so on. So the muscles around your airway that push and pull your bronchi and your vocal cords, as well as the large diaphragm muscle that pulls your lungs down and up, these muscles are how your production department contributes to the job of breathing. And also, very important, the big vein and artery that carry the blood to and from your lungs. These belong to this department, as does the blood itself. The production department is controlled from your cerebral medulla, the white matter in the big cerebrum part of your brain. The fourth and final department of your body is what I call the PR department, and it's run by your cerebral cortex. This part of your body is all the sensory tissue like your skin, your eyes, and your taste buds, and the scent receptors in the back of your sinuses and the back of your throat, and also motor control nerves, the nerve cells of your body that tell your muscles to fight, flee, or freeze when you sense a dangerous situation. The PR department of your body is constantly scanning the environment and adjusting your blood sugar, your muscle tension, and more in order to respond and react to whatever's going on around you. In your respiratory system, the tissues of the PR department are the sensitive tissues of the epithelium that lines the inside of the bronchus, as well as the larynx. So it's the bronchial and laryngeal apparatus. So now that I've got the respiratory tract properly organized, I can explain the real cause of respiratory illness symptoms. This is the easy part. It's the first natural law of healing, the law of conflict. Every symptom in your body is your body's brain-mediated response to a traumatic stress experience, what we call a biological conflict. The second natural law of healing, the law of process, says that first you'll instantly react to a trauma at 3 levels: your psyche, your body, and your brain. Your brain is the relay between your psyche and your body. And then, when that trauma is resolved or goes away, you'll switch into the healing phase to recover metabolically from reacting to that stress. It repairs your tissues. Now, this healing phase after conflict resolution, again, it will simultaneously affect your psyche, your brain, and your body. It happens in all 3 systems at once because they're really one system. The third natural law of healing, the law of relevance, says that the exact part of your body that's responsible for handling that type of stress will be the part of the body that reacts. So all we have to do is figure out either which part of the body is involved, what part of the brain is reacting, we can see that on a CAT scan, or what the stress was. And we'll be able to figure out the other 2. So if we know what's happening in the psyche, we can know what's happening in the brain and in the body. Or if we know what's happening in the brain, we can know what's happening in the psyche and in the body, and so on. Recognition of this third natural law of healing, the law of relevance, this is the beginning of an outright revolution for the wellness industry. Instead of lumping illnesses together based on how long they've gone on or how far they've progressed or whether the person smoked or not or other irrelevant bits of information, we can just nail the exact reaction that's going on right now. And this means that we have a much better chance of actually resolving it right now. All we have to do is identify which part of the body is involved. And that's pretty simple too, because lung alveoli tissue, for example, it won't produce an asthma attack. And the sensitive laryngeal tissue will develop laryngitis, but it has nothing to do with your aorta. Tuberculosis and emphysema affect the lung alveoli, but bronchitis affects the bronchial tissue, and they don't cross over, and so on. So how exactly does all this stuff about anatomy and stress response provide a solution? Now, this isn't an easy answer. It's going to take hard work to sort through exactly what the symptoms are and what part of your body's involved and what kind of traumatic stress your symptom is a response to. But knowing the anatomy, knowing the laws of healing, it provides a clear step-by-step process that you can follow to make progress in the right direction. Your solution to respiratory illness, whether it's a nagging cough or full-blown lung cancer, the solution is to understand these 5 natural laws of healing. Now, I already mentioned the first 3, and especially the third natural law of healing, the law of relevance, which says the part of your body that's reacting is determined by this type of stress you've had. Here are the ramifications of understanding all 5 of the natural laws of healing. When you understand the first natural law of healing, you'll understand that every symptom starts with a traumatic stress experience, a biological conflict. So you'll know that if you have a cough or if you have low oxygen levels or if you have mucus or whatever your symptom is, you've got to resolve a trauma situation in order to resolve your symptom. When you understand the second natural law of healing, you'll understand that some symptoms are active conflict symptoms and some symptoms are healing symptoms after you actually did resolve your trauma. So 2 very different symptoms can affect the exact same part of the body, but the treatment you'd use in supporting your body's healing would be very different. For example, lung cancer and tuberculosis, 2 very different symptoms caused by the exact same conflict. But one symptom, lung cancer, is the active stress response, and the other symptom, tuberculosis, is the body's removal of the lung tumors in the healing phase. When you've got lung cancer, you must resolve a conflict. But when you've got tuberculosis, you've already resolved the conflict. Now you have to support your body with nutrition, rest, and probably antibiotics to control night sweats and other aspects of the infection. When you understand the third natural law of healing, you'll understand that the type and location of the symptom in your body, in your brain, and in your psyche is the key to figuring out what kind of stress experience you've had that started off the whole process. And that's the key to resolving it, is figuring out what it is in the first place. For example, lung cancer is an active stress response to a straight-up death fright, a conflict of not being able to get enough oxygen in or carbon dioxide out. It's a resource management problem. The lung tissues multiply to be able to literally extract more oxygen out of the air or expel more carbon dioxide out of the blood. When you resolve this death fright, the lung cancer will stop growing and will start to be removed out of the body. When you understand the fourth natural law of healing, you'll understand that the world around you isn't separate from you. Your body is an ecosystem as well as being part of an ecosystem. It's your reaction to your surroundings, and that reaction happens in your psyche. It's that reaction to your surroundings that leads to a response in your body. So your body isn't being attacked by the world around you. Your body's actually using whatever ecological resources are available, including microbes. For example, when you resolve the death fright, the lung cancer will instantly stop growing and the tumors will die off. They're no longer necessary. So how do you flush these now excess tissues out of your body? The same way that nature deals with any kind of dead tissue. Microbes eat the dead tissues up. Yes, it's pretty gross, but that's how nature works. It's a big recycling operation. There is no waste. If the appropriate microbes, that is tuberculosis mycobacteria, if they happen to be in the body, there will be a lung tuberculosis infection in the healing phase of lung cancer. This rapidly breaks down the former lung cancer tumors, allowing them to be coughed out. If the mycobacteria aren't present, then the tumors will sort of crystallize and they'll kind of wear out of your body more slowly. Finally, when you understand the fifth natural law of healing, you'll understand that every symptom is meant to help you become stronger and more able. But you have to overcome these illnesses. It's important that you not give in to the idea that you're genetically flawed or that your former lifestyle choices have irreversibly damaged your respiratory system. It's a living system. It's renewing constantly. It's okay for you to believe that you're damaged. It's an option to believe this, but it won't make you well again. It won't help you recover perfect respiratory health. And as I said early in the episode, respiratory illness is the true top killer around the world. So I urge you to consider a wider range of possibilities here. I recommend that you grab my free resource materials, such as my short guide, The 5 Natural Laws of Healing, Cure the Incurable, and Heal Anything Today, or my new free Mind Over Symptom training, which is 6 lessons sent to you by email. These informational materials really make the 5 natural laws of healing easy to understand so that you can switch on your immunity, resolve your symptom, and create a body and life that you love. I'm also going to go into depth on the reasons for individual respiratory illnesses in future episodes of the Mind Over Symptom podcast. So subscribe now to make sure you don't miss out on those. And of course, if you'd like more direct personal support to sort out the experiential cause of your symptom, I'd be delighted to help you out with that. This has been episode 6 of the Mind Over Symptom podcast. Please provide feedback and questions by rating and reviewing the podcast or connecting with me via my website, mindtreehealth.net, or at any one of my other channels, all of which are listed at my website. Your feedback helps me to continue to improve my work and help people on their journey of self-care. Links to these and other info from the episode are listed in the show notes. I'm Lishwi Springford, a natural scientist and your guide for radical self-healing. I look forward to being with you again soon. Until then, be well and have a great day. I hope you enjoyed Mind Over Symptom. To make sure you don't miss an episode, subscribe now and please share with a loved one. The Mind Over Symptom blog lives at mindtreehealth.net, where you can get your free training about the natural laws of healing, and you can also get support. I'm Lishwi Springford, your guide for radical self-healing.